Some of these fire trucks are 70 years old, and people still pay more for them than a brand new car. I found 10 real fire engines built in the 1950s that are so beautiful, collectors chase them across the country just to own one. One of them has a chrome ball on its nose worth drooling over. One starred on national TV, and number one was such a wild gamble it could have destroyed an entire company. Watch this. Number 10. Maxim Motors Cab Forward. We're kicking this list off with a truck almost nobody outside the fire world talks about, and that's exactly why it deserves the spot. Maxim Motors came out of Middleborough, Massachusetts, and by the 1920s it was already a trusted name building fire engines for towns all across New England. These weren't flashy trucks made to win beauty contests. They were built by people who fought real fires, for people who fought real fires, and that no-nonsense, it just works attitude is stamped into every rivet. Here's where it gets interesting. In the late 1950s, Maxim joined Mack and Seagrave in doing something bold. They started building cab-forward fire trucks, that dramatic look where the driver sits ahead of the engine instead of behind a long hood. That whole design revolution had started with American LaFrance earlier in the decade, and Maxim ran with it, giving their trucks a wide, purposeful face that still looks modern 70 years later. And there's a plot twist. On November 30th, 1956, Maxim became the Maxim Motor division of Seagrave, one of the most respected fire truck makers in the entire country, while still operating as its own corporation. So a 1950s Maxim isn't just a good-looking truck, it's a piece of a bigger story, a small New England builder that got so good the giants came knocking. Look at one today and you'll notice how clean and honest the design is. No wasted lines, chrome where it counts, a stance that says get out of the way. These trucks spent decades protecting small towns, and the survivors that made it into private collections still turn heads at every muster and parade they roll into. For a company most people have never heard of, that's an incredible legacy, and the perfect way to open this countdown. Number 9. Ward LaFrance Open Cab Quad. Now here's a name that confuses people constantly, so let me clear it up right away. Ward LaFrance is not the same company as American LaFrance. They were both based in Elmira Heights, New York, and yes, the founders were related. Addison Ward LaFrance actually worked at American LaFrance before he struck out on his own and founded his company back in 1916, but they were separate businesses, rivals even. Same town, same last name, totally different trucks. And in the 1950s, Ward LaFrance built some absolute beauties. The one I want to show you is legendary in fire circles. In 1951, New York City, one of the busiest, most demanding fire departments on the planet, put 7 Ward LaFrance open cab quads into service. Now if you don't know what a quad is, it's a fire truck that carries 4 key things: a pump, water, hose, and ground ladders, all on one rig. Basically a Swiss Army knife on wheels. Each of these New York quads packed a 750-gallon per minute pump and a 250-gallon booster tank. 2 of them got assigned to Staten Island ladder companies, and the rest went to engine companies scattered across the city. Picture that. These open cab machines roaring through 1950s Manhattan, firefighters hanging on in the open air, no doors, no roof, just raw purpose and screaming sirens. That open cab look is exactly why these trucks still stop people in their tracks today. There's something fearless about it. No climate control, no comfort, just a crew exposed to the elements racing toward danger. It's the kind of image that belongs on a poster. Ward LaFrance kept building trucks and fire apparatus all the way until 1979. And the survivors from the 1950s, they've got that muscular, old-school American toughness that modern trucks, for all their technology, just can't replicate. This is a truck built when firefighting was as raw as it got, and it wears every bit of that history proudly. Number 8. Pirsch Sons Aerial. If you've ever watched firefighters extend a giant ladder up the side of a burning building and thought, how does that even work? You have this next company to thank. Pirsch Sons came out of Kenosha, Wisconsin, and these people were pioneers in the truest sense of the word. Back in 1935, Pirsch delivered the first all-metal, hydraulically powered 100-foot aerial ladder in the entire United States, sending it to the fire department in Melrose, Massachusetts. Think about how big a deal that was. Before this, most departments were still running 20-year-old wooden ladders that got raised by springs, heavy, slow, and dangerous. Pirsch basically dragged the fire service into the modern age. Then in 1938, they introduced a 100-foot aluminum alloy closed lattice aerial ladder, and that became their signature, a Pirsch specialty that the company was still building for decades afterward. So by the time the 1950s rolled around, a Pirsch aerial truck wasn't just handsome, it was cutting-edge engineering wrapped in gorgeous bodywork. These were long-nosed conventional trucks, engine out front under a big hood, often with open cabs, and they had this confident hand-built quality to them. Pirsch was famous for that. They bought cabs from General Motors for years and built the rest themselves with real craftsmanship. Their engines came mostly from Hercules and Waukesha, tough, dependable power plants. And here's something that tells you everything about how good these trucks were. Departments were fiercely loyal to them. Memphis, Tennessee and Washington, D.C. were devoted Pirsch customers, coming back again and again. By 1970, Pirsch had become the largest fire apparatus manufacturer in the United States that focused exclusively on firefighting equipment. They didn't make anything else, just fire trucks, and they were the best at it. A 1950s Pirsch, with that towering aluminum aerial ladder and long chrome-trimmed nose, is a stunning machine. It represents the moment fire departments went from wood and guesswork to metal and precision, and it still looks like it could climb the side of a skyscraper tomorrow. Number 7. American LaFrance 800 Series. This next one is here for a reason most people would never guess. It's rare. Almost nobody has one, and that rarity has turned it into a hidden gem. By the mid-1950s, American LaFrance was the undisputed king of fire trucks in America, but their competitors had started copying the cab-forward design, and it was starting to bite into sales. So in 1956, American LaFrance rolled out the 800 series. Now the 800 was built on the same cab-forward chassis as their famous 700 series, same basic revolutionary layout, driver sitting way out front, but it was designed with a very specific goal: reduce the cost of manufacturing while offering departments more options to choose from. You could get it with a variety of Continental inline 6-cylinder engines, or you could still order American LaFrance's own screaming V12 if you wanted the premium power plant. Here's the catch, and here's why it's on this list. The 800 series was only ever offered as a pumper, running centrifugal pumps rated anywhere from 500 all the way up to 1,500 gallons per minute, and it barely lasted. American LaFrance had actually intended the 800 to replace the 700, but instead the two ended up being sold side by side, and then in 1958 the brand new 900 series came along and replaced both of them at once. The result? In the roughly year and a half the 800 series was in production, only about 300 were ever completed. 300. Compared to the thousands of other American LaFrance trucks out there, that makes a 1950s 800 series a genuine rarity, the fire truck equivalent of a limited edition run that almost nobody noticed at the time. And it looks fantastic. It's got all the aggressive cab-forward beauty of its more famous siblings, that wide chrome face and long low body, but with a story that only real enthusiasts know. Find one of these at a show and you're looking at one of the scarcest good-looking fire engines of the entire decade. Number 6. Ahrens-Fox Model HT. Okay, now we're getting to the trucks that make grown adults go weak in the knees. And this one is legendary. Ahrens-Fox came out of Cincinnati, Ohio, and among fire truck fanatics, this company is treated almost like a religion. I'm not exaggerating. Collectors and historians have all but turned the Ahrens-Fox into a firefighting deity, and when you see one, you'll understand exactly why. The signature of an Ahrens-Fox is the front-mounted piston pump, mounted right out front where everybody can see it, topped by a gleaming, polished chrome spherical air chamber. It looks like a giant chrome ball sitting proudly on the nose of the truck. That sphere actually did a job. It smoothed out the pressure fluctuations coming from the piston pump so the water flowed steadily instead of pulsing. But function aside, it is one of the most beautiful distinctive details ever bolted onto a motor vehicle. Nothing else on earth looks like it. The model I want to highlight is the Model HT, and noted fire apparatus historian Walt McCall has called it arguably the most beautiful fire engine ever made in America. That's the kind of praise you don't throw around lightly. The HT was built from 1937 into the early 1950s, and it was Ahrens-Fox's last great attempt to sell the world on the piston pumper. Only 65 of them were ever produced. Under the hood sat a massive 935 cubic inch Hercules 6-cylinder engine paired with a 4-speed overdrive transmission, and that setup could push this heavy machine to 65 miles per hour with ease. The 6-cylinder piston pump was rated at a full 1,000 gallons per minute. Sadly, the world was moving toward cheaper, simpler centrifugal pumps, and the beautiful, expensive, hand-built piston pumper was becoming a dinosaur. Ahrens-Fox knew it, but they went out in the most gorgeous way imaginable. A surviving Model HT today, with that chrome sphere glinting in the sun, is quite possibly the most jaw-dropping fire truck you will ever lay eyes on. Number 5. American LaFrance 900 Series. At number 5, we've got the truck that took everything American LaFrance had learned and perfected it. By 1958, the 700 series had reigned for over a decade, and the short-lived 800 series had come and gone. American LaFrance needed one design to rule them all, and in 1958, moving into 1959, they delivered the 900 series. Now on the surface, the 900 looked similar to the 700 and its close cousin, the 800. Same fundamental cab-forward DNA, driver perched out front for that massive forward view. But make no mistake, the 900 was an all-new design, and the biggest change was right where the crew sat, a wider cab. That extra width might not sound exciting, but for firefighters bouncing down a road toward an emergency, crammed shoulder to shoulder in full gear, a wider cab was a genuine upgrade in comfort and safety. More room to move, more room to breathe, more room to get to work the second the truck stopped. The 900 series went on to become one of the defining fire trucks of its era, staying in production and revolutionizing fire truck design well into the 1970s alongside the closely related 1000 series. When you picture a classic American fire engine from the late 50s and 60s, that low, wide, chrome-faced cab-forward beast with a big single-piece or split windshield staring down the road, there's a good chance you're picturing a 900. And here's why it still looks incredible today. It hit that sweet spot. The 900 is muscular without being clumsy, modern without losing that mid-century character, and wide enough to look absolutely planted and purposeful on the road. It's the truck that so many departments across America ran for decades, which means it's burned into the collective memory of an entire generation. See a restored one today, gleaming red with polished chrome, and it looks less like an antique and more like it just rolled off the line, ready to answer the next alarm. Number 4. Mack B-85 Thermodyne. You know the phrase, built like a Mack truck? Well, this is where fire trucks meet that exact reputation, and the results are stunning. Mack Trucks of Allentown, Pennsylvania had been building fire apparatus since around 1911, all of them wearing that famous gold bulldog on the nose. But in 1953, Mack introduced a machine that a lot of people call the most handsome truck ever built to work for a living, the B-Series. The B-Series had this beautifully rounded, curved fender styling with the headlights tucked right into the fenders and a big, bold, often chromed radiator grille, with the bulldog sitting dead center on top. It replaced Mack's older, boxier L-Series, and it instantly set a new standard for how a working truck could look, round-shouldered, muscular, and gorgeous. The fire truck version I want to zero in on is the B-85, powered by Mack's legendary Thermodyne engine. This is a big deal in truck history. 1953 also marked the debut of the Thermodyne, an open-chamber, direct-injection inline six-cylinder diesel that Mack developed in collaboration with Scania in Sweden. Depending on the version, the standard Thermodyne cranked out somewhere between 170 and 211 horsepower, with turbocharged variants pushing up around 220. And here's a wild stat. Between 1953 and 1966, roughly 80% of all Macks were equipped with a Thermodyne engine. That's how good it was. The trucks themselves were tanks. In 1956, the U.S. Navy trusted Mack so much that it awarded a contract for 33 B-Series fire pumpers. When the Navy picks your truck, you know it's tough. Across the entire B-Series run from 1953 to 1966, well over 120,000 were built, and incredibly, some are still in active service to this day. A restored B-85 fire pumper, with that curvy body, chrome grille, and gold bulldog gleaming up front, is pure American iron. It doesn't just look incredible, it looks unstoppable. Number 3. Crown Firecoach. Now here's the one I teased at the very start. The fire truck that became a Hollywood star. The Crown Firecoach came from the Crown Coach Corporation in Los Angeles, California, and it has one of the coolest origin stories of any truck on this list. The very first Firecoach was completed in 1951, designed by a man named Roy Hardy. And instead of starting from scratch, Crown built it on the mid-engine chassis of their Supercoach school bus. That's right, the bones of a school bus became one of the most beloved fire trucks the West Coast ever produced. That mid-engine layout gave the Firecoach a distinctive, sleek, cab-forward shape, and out west it became absolute royalty. From the 1950s onward, the Crown Firecoach was the king of the West Coast, with the Los Angeles City Fire Department as its biggest customer. These trucks were famous for being rock-solid and driving incredibly smoothly. They were powered mostly by big Hall Scott and Waukesha gasoline engines, including a monstrous 935 cubic inch Hall Scott. But here's the part that makes number 3 unforgettable. If you've ever seen the classic 1970s TV show Emergency, the show that made an entire generation want to become firefighters and paramedics, then you've seen a Crown Firecoach in action. The show's famous Engine 51 was played by a 1965 Crown Firecoach Triple, a real Los Angeles County Fire Department engine with a 1,250 gallon per minute pump. During the early seasons, actual Crown Firecoaches from the LA County Fire Department served as props on the show while still being active, in-service fire engines. They fought TV fires and real fires. That Engine 51 truck now lives in the Los Angeles County Fire Museum, treated like the celebrity it is, and that's why the Crown Firecoach still looks incredible. It's not just a beautiful, smooth West Coast icon. It's a genuine piece of pop culture history that inspired countless real-life heroes. Number 2. Seagrave 70th Anniversary Series. We are almost at number 1, and this next truck has one of the most charming, most instantly recognizable designs in fire truck history, plus an adorable nickname. Seagrave was founded way back in 1881 and eventually settled in Columbus, Ohio, becoming one of the oldest and most respected fire apparatus makers in all of North America. And in 1951, to celebrate their 70th anniversary, they unveiled a brand new post-war design that they fittingly called the 70th Anniversary Series. This thing had a bold new front end with 2 massive full-width chrome grille bars stretched across the nose. But the most distinctive feature, the one that makes people smile the second they see it, was the siren. Seagrave built the siren right into the center of the truck's rounded nose, poking out like a headlight on a modern diesel locomotive. Usually it was a big Federal Q siren, mounted dead center in the hood. And because of that round nose with the glowing central eye, firefighters gave these trucks the greatest nickname ever, the Rudolphs, like Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer. Once you know that, you can never unsee it, and you'll never forget it. Under the hood, many of these ran a beautifully smooth V12 engine. Seagrave used a V12 originally designed by Pirsch Sons for their luxury automobiles. When Pirsch Sons went out of business in 1938, Seagrave bought the rights and the tooling and kept producing that smooth-running engine for their trucks into the 1960s. The smaller version displaced 531 cubic inches and could pump 1,000 gallons per minute. The 70th Anniversary Series was a massive success. Around 1,600 of them were built, and they stayed in production for nearly 2 decades, the very last one rolling out in 1970. The first 5 ever made, 4 pumpers and an aerial, went straight to Seagrave's hometown of Columbus, Ohio. A restored Rudolph today, with that chrome-barred grille and siren in the nose, is one of the most lovable and beautiful fire trucks ever made. It's number 2 for a reason. Number 1. American LaFrance 700 Series. And here it is, the number 1 fire truck of the 1950s. The one that didn't just look incredible, it literally changed firefighting forever. This is the American LaFrance 700 Series, and fire historians simply call it America's fire engine. Here's the story. As World War II was ending, American LaFrance, the premier fire apparatus builder in the country based in Elmira, New York, made a jaw-dropping gamble. They bet the entire company's future on a radical new idea. They completed 2 prototypes in 1945, and when the 700 series officially launched, they did something insane. They discontinued all of their existing products and essentially told their customers, take it or leave it. It was all in. The gamble paid off beyond anyone's wildest dreams. The 700 series introduced the cab-forward design to the American Fire Service, placing the driver and officer ahead of the engine instead of behind a long hood, and the improvement was staggering. That cab-forward layout gave the driver an astonishing 250% increase in forward visibility over the old design. For firefighters racing through crowded streets, that was the difference between life and death. Fun fact, The futuristic front-end styling was actually inspired by General Motors' Train of Tomorrow locomotive. Then there was the engine. The 700 could be ordered with a Lycoming or American LaFrance's own magnificent V12, and these V12s were works of art with built-in double redundancy for the ignition, 2 distributors, 4 ignition coils, and 2 spark plugs per cylinder. Do the math on 12 cylinders and you get 24 spark plugs in a single fire engine. Actual delivery began in 1947, and the 700 absolutely swept the nation, sweeping aside all its competitors. By the end of 1950 alone, more than 1,400 had been delivered. Over its production run through 1959, more than 3,000 of these cab-forward wonders were built, and they became the machine every other manufacturer scrambled to copy. The 700 established the cab-forward chassis as the A standard for American firefighting, a standard we still see on fire trucks today. That's the legacy. When you look at a gleaming, restored American LaFrance 700, you're not just looking at a gorgeous mid-century machine with a wide chrome face and a screaming V12. You're looking at the truck that rewrote the rules. It looked like the future in 1947, and unbelievably, it still looks like the future now. That is why it's number 1. Now I want to hear from you. Which one was your favorite? Was it the Rudolph with the siren in its nose, the Bulldog-badged Mack, or the number 1 legend? Drop it in the comments, and if you love these classic machines, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.